There we go.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started with our slideshow. And hopefully everybody can see this. So I am going to fill you guys in. I'm going to let you be a part of something really, really special. And it is the super secret inner circle guru diet that makes you better than everybody else. Okay? Not really. It's just going to give you a method of using kind of all the methods of dieting and picking the one that works for you. Okay? So I get this from Peter Attia. He wrote a book called Outlive, which has a lot of really good stuff in it. But this diet gives you 3 different levers that you can pull. We call them levers, just methods that you can use to find a way to restrict calories. Okay, so the idea on this is to always pull one of the levers, often or sometimes pull 2 of the levers, and occasionally, but fairly sparingly, pull all 3 of them. Okay, so what are these levers? And any diet you can find uses one of these methods. Okay, the first one is time restriction, or how often you eat. You could also say when you eat. Okay, so if you restrict how often you eat, the different ways you can do that is by skipping a meal, getting rid of snacks, or making yourself have some sort of eating window. Okay, now there's nothing magical about this. This is intermittent fasting, or time restricted eating is probably the more accurate term. There's nothing that special about it compared to other calorie restriction methods. People will say there are, but there's really not. And really the way it works as a diet is that obviously if you eat less often, you're probably going to eat fewer calories. If you're not snacking, you're going to eat fewer calories. Or if you're only eating in a short amount of time, you're going to eat fewer calories. All right, so that's lever number 1 that you can pull. Lever number 2 is calorie restriction, which really we're always going to try to restrict calories, but this is simply how much you eat. So the actual quantity of food. Okay, so the way we can use this one is going to be portion control. Okay, that's just limiting the amount you get each time. That's what most people tend to think of with dieting. Using the hand method, which I'll kind of go over later, but taking each type of food and using a part of your hand as a measurement, prepping your meals in advance, and then using smaller plates. Okay, you can see the same amount of food on that picture looks actually like much more when you use a smaller plate. So, it's common sense on how this is going to work as far as cutting your calories as if you're actually eating less. Okay, and that's one method. And then our third method is dietary restriction. So this is what you eat. Okay, now this is eating clean or eating like an adult. This will mostly be focusing on protein, fruits, veggies, high fibrous foods. This can also be done with meal prep, or mostly basing what you eat on the things that are on the outside part of the aisles. Okay, this is going to be mostly non-processed foods or more natural foods. The good thing about these is they're going to fill you up more. Okay, so you can actually eat more of them and you get fewer calories when you do this. Okay, so it really doesn't matter which of these methods you prefer. They all are going to limit calories, which is what our goal is here. And it really comes down to finding the method that works for you. Okay, like we said last week, there is no magic to any of these. It comes down to finding what works for you. Now, what I don't want you to do is to be overly restrictive. And we all tend to do this. I know I've done this quite a bit. And sometimes for me, it's like, well, I know I recommend this to everybody. Don't be too restrictive. But for me, I'll go ahead and cut it down to 1 small meal a day of only clean foods. Well, that's going to set me up to have way too few calories. And that's going to cause many problems further down the road, which we kind of talked about and we'll cover more later. So before we get more into it, I probably need to explain what some of this stuff is in case you're not real sure. I talk a lot about calories. And what are calories? They're simply how much energy is in the food that you eat. Okay. The technical term is it's the amount of energy that is needed to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water 1 degree Celsius. But all it really is heat energy, okay, and the bonds of the molecules. Now, I'm going to talk about maintenance calories. What are those? That's simply the calories that are needed to maintain your body weight, okay? Wherever you're at right now, you're going to need a certain number of calories, and that is your maintenance, okay? Think of that as the middle cup in that picture, okay? In the middle cup, there's a certain amount of water, and let's say that's your maintenance calories. Any fewer calories than that, any of the cup on the right, that's going to cause you to lose weight, okay? Any more, the cups on the left, that's going to cause you to gain weight, okay? So we're constantly kind of playing with where our maintenance is, and then we want to be slightly below that, and then eat that, and that's going to cause us to lose weight. The thing we got to understand, which we'll get into more later, is as I lose weight, my maintenance calorie shrinks, which means to then lose more weight, I'm going to have to keep gradually dipping my calories down, which is, again, why we don't want to go here, because then we're going to get our set point there and we have nowhere to go after that, okay? Now, macronutrients. This is extremely important for understanding what is in our food. And these are just the nutritive components of the food that your body is going to need for energy and to build structures and maintain the systems and all things like that. And those are protein, carbs, and fats. We've all heard of these things, but what exactly are they? What do they do? How do we need them? And all those things. Protein is going to be our biggest one. That's the one I'm going to want you to focus on more than anything else. This is the one that really matters, okay? This is extremely essential for your structures. You are basically made of proteins that you've eaten over time, okay? So if we're not eating enough proteins, we're going to lose muscle mass. If we lose muscle mass, our maintenance calories drop significantly, okay, which becomes a problem. Protein's also more satiating or filling than the other foods, okay? So the more protein you eat, the more full you're going to be and the less junk you're going to want to eat, okay? And when you eat a lot of protein, it's just kind of hard to get fat from eating extra protein because it's used so much by your body for structures and things like that. So our protein target, and this is no matter what diet you're choosing, is to have about 1 gram per pound of your goal weight. Okay, so if your goal weight, like let's say you weigh 200 pounds now and you want to be 160, okay, you should be eating 160 grams of protein per day. That's probably more, or whatever your weight is. For me, it's around 250 or so that I've got to be trying to eat. Okay, so that gets to be quite a bit, and I've got to be very intentional about eating that protein. Okay, now if you don't want to count grams, you can just count your palms. And I would recommend eating 4 to 6 palm-sized servings of protein foods a day. What are the protein foods? They're going to be mostly meat foods. I like to tell our athletes anything that had a face, okay, is a good protein source. So something that flew, something that swam, something that ran. Okay, now, if you're not into animal sources of proteins and you're more into the vegan thing, you're going to have to be a little bit more intentional about what proteins you get because plant proteins aren't always complete proteins. You can get to your goal. You're just going to have to kind of eat a little bit more than that to make sure you cover your bases. All right. So mostly you're going to be looking at things like chicken, beef, fish, milk, some cheese. Those are going to have a little more fat in them and stuff like that, but it's also going to be good protein sources. Carbs. All right. Now, there's a lot of villainization of carbs out there. Carbs can cause problems when eaten in excess. But carbs are really your body's main energy source. It's the one your body wants to go to first. Now, they're not essential, which is why a keto diet works. Keto diets remove pretty much all of your carbs, and that's going to cause you to lose a lot of weight. That's going to be your one of your restriction methods that you can have. But there's nothing magical about them. And carbs aren't evil. Okay, you can still get very, very lean eating carbs. Bodybuilders do this all the time. They still eat 200 to 300 grams of carbs when they're close to a contest, and they're as lean of people as you'll ever see. Okay, now carbohydrate target, depending on what your method of restriction is, 3 to 6 cupped hands per day tend to be pretty good. if you're tracking what you're doing, which I'll get into that here in a minute. You really don't have to track your carbs if you don't want to. And then we'll get into fat. That's our last macronutrient. It is a source of energy. It is essential. Your body doesn't make it, so you have to eat some. Okay. The problem with that, it has a lot of calories per gram. So when you eat it, it's packed with calories, which can make it good. But then again, you can overdo the calories if you're not careful. Now, eating fat doesn't make you fat. Okay. If you grew up in the 80s and 90s, that was kind of what people would like to say, look out for the fat. It goes straight to your belly or something like that. Again, it's a calorie thing. It's a calorie equation. All right. Now, not all fats are equal. Fats that come from nature tend to be better. Fats with high omega-3s like salmon tend to be better, and monounsaturated fats like olive oils and avocados tend to be better as well. Fat target, if you're tracking, I would try to get 3 to 6 thumbs per day. But if you're eating a little bit higher fatty meats, you don't really need to keep track of that. It'll come with the meat itself. Veggies, not my favorite thing, but they are something you probably should find a way to get in. They tend to be high in micronutrients, so a lot of vitamins and things like that. They're going to have a lot of fiber. And most importantly, if you're dieting, the biggest thing veggies can do is they help fill you up, and there's very few calories per unit of food. Okay, so you could eat a lot and not have a lot of calories there, unless you do it like I do and cook them in butter. That won't help you on the calorie side of things. Okay, so your veggie target, really you should be trying to get 3 to 6 fists per day if you're tracking. And you could really throw fruits in this as well. They're just going to tend to have more calories than the veggies will. Okay, now here's how we're going to view this as far as fat loss. Your goal in this, one of the biggest things I want you to think about is hitting your protein goal. We want to keep as much muscle as we can. That allows us to burn as many calories as possible all the time. Okay. Then I want you to use the method of restriction that keeps you in a calorie deficit. Any one of those 3 levers that works for you. For me, again, it's the time restriction. If I know I get to have 1 big meal a day, maybe a small snack with it, I'm good. And psychologically, I'm good with that. The idea of eating clean all day, little small clean meals, doesn't sit real well with me, and things like that. The ratio of carbs and fats don't matter if you're in a calorie deficit and you hit your protein goal. Any type of diet will work if you do those 2 things. Now, if your method of restriction is to cut out carbs or to limit your fats, obviously you're going to have to keep track of those or at least keep a good eye on them. Okay, now I lost my slide that has our task, but if I get you down to our task sheet for today, I will cover that. If you look at the bottom here, and I sent you this today, the physical task for you for this week is to practice and rank the methods of restriction that I went over. Okay, so I want you to spend 1 day this week restricting how much you eat. Okay, take your normal meal and cut it down by 25% or so. See how you feel with that, psychologically and physically. Then I want you to spend 1 day restricting how often you eat. Maybe skip breakfast. If you have several snacks throughout the day, maybe only eat your 3 meals, something along those lines. And then the last one is to skip the watt, to change the watt. Spend 1 day eating all unprocessed foods. Okay, meats, veggies, potatoes, rice, things like that. Cut out the processed junk. See how you feel. Then I want you to rank those methods in the order that you prefer them. Okay, that's it. 3 days this week. You're going to try each one of the dieting methods and see how you like them, which one you like the most, and then probably with the one you probably don't like that much, and then kind of have that in mind so that when we move forward, you know which method will work for you. All right. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Scott.
Okay. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. Good information to have, guys. I really, if you get a chance, even if you've been live with us, go back and look at that again. Those are just some really excellent ways to begin to change your body. We're going to start tonight. One of the things that's very different about what we do is a lot of opportunities to have people help you with diets, personal training, things like that. But the thing that we offer is the spiritual side as well as the mental side that Phil will cover. And it's very important that we become a whole person. I'm going to read this. It's out of the New Century Version. You can follow along, and I apologize if your pictures are over part of the scripture, but it says, "You know that in a race all the runners run, but only one gets the prize. So run to win. All those who compete in the games use self-control. Keep that in mind. That's something we're going to talk about. So they can win a crown. That crown is an earthly thing that lasts only a short time, but our crown will never be destroyed. So I do not run without a goal. I fight like a boxer who is hitting something, not just the air. I treat my body hard and make it my slave so that I myself may not be disqualified after I have preached to others." Here's the important thing to know: self-control. It's a tough thing. It's a really tough thing for people to get you know get hold of in their life. And so if you look at what it says here, the current culture, basically it says that you know everybody gets a trophy, everybody gets the same thing. We're all equal. Your way is as good as anyone else's. And the thing that we do that is so much different is, and what I'm saying right here is, only you, it talks about self-control, only you can control yourself. And contrary to some beliefs that people have, even Christians, God won't control you. Others can't control you. So you have to decide to discipline yourself to have self-control. And that self-control at any level will be rewarded. So you have two choices. You can let the culture and the current beliefs and everything control you, has to do with diet or anything else you choose to do, or you can begin to control yourself. How can I how, how can I finish what I've started? This is the thing I think that gets so many people. Um, it gets them in a bad way pretty quick. And here's the thing: self-control is developed over time with small steps. That is what's called training. The problem is, and I heard this from Craig Rochelle, and it was so good because it's true. He said the problem for most of us is we need to quit trying and start training. This is true in our spiritual life. This is true in our physical life, whether you're wanting to pull the levers that John mentions. Those are all different levers of self-control. Whether it's something that Phil's going to be talking about, if you're trying to have a more of a growth mindset as opposed to a closed mindset, you have to control yourself. And it starts with small things. And, just like that scripture said, it'd be a shame to go our whole life and all we're trying to do is make our body beautiful, get our weight where we want it. While that's important, and all three of us are very passionate about this. Keep in mind it talks about in that scripture that it's only for a brief period of time. If you live to be 120 years old and that's all you've ever worked on was your body, then you're going to be, eternity is a long time. And no matter how you want to look at it, when you look in the Bible, there will be rewards later on. And so right now, the reward you're looking for physically is to get in shape, lose some weight, get stronger, more mobile, whatever. You're spiritually, we want to develop some self-control in small steps. That is training, those small steps you take. What is your prize? Spiritually, physically, and mentally. Well, spiritually, we all want to be Christ-like. That's our desire. But what I want us to think more specifically about is, John was talking at one point in the first one. He talks about going from A to Z. You're at step A right now. You want to be at Z, okay? But there's some places in between. What I want to look at is, what is your spiritual prize right now? Is it to be more forgiving? Maybe control your anger, maybe control greed or something like that. What is the prize you're looking for right now? What are those steps? And what's that one thing you're looking for? And then, of course, physically, mentally, what are you wanting to do? What are those small steps you will take toward getting that prize? In Zechariah 4:10, it says, and this is where I think a lot of people, when it comes to any of these pursuits, whether it be spiritual, physical, or mental, they get discouraged quickly because they are small steps. Again, they are small steps of controlling yourself and making wise decisions. And the thing in Zechariah 4:10 says, do not despise the day of small beginnings. Don't be discouraged over small things. Don't be discouraged that all you're doing right now is maybe pulling a few levers and reading a couple scriptures. This is training. This is getting yourself, you're starting to move forward in your training. Ask. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to, first of all, I want you to think about two areas that you have control. Everybody has some self control in some areas. Okay. I want you to think about, I'm going to use as an example. You know what, Scott? I have no problem getting up every day and going to work. Why? Because I need a paycheck. I want payment. I want the money. I want to be able to pay my bills. I want to be able to buy things I like. Find the areas because everyone has some control in some area. They have some ability to self control. And so I want you to look at two areas and see, okay, I have control here, and this is why. Now I want you to list those two areas where you do not have self control. And I want you to find a reason to begin to train. Keep in mind, not try, train yourself to get control in that area. Spiritually, specifically in my area, I'm talking, find that area that, I just lose my temper really quick. I know for me, one of the greatest challenges I have is getting behind the wheel. I mean, when I get out in traffic, if I'm going to lose any control of my thought patterns or my vocals of what I would say, it's going to be in traffic. So you got to find, where do I have no control, and what will it take to begin to train to develop that control in that area. Paul talks about not. He goes, after I'm done preaching to others, I don't disqualify myself. Here's the thing: you're only going to disqualify yourself by giving up. Training is doing your daily task. Training is doing these small things. And even if you stumble, please, please don't give up. Training is doing what you can today to enable you to do more tomorrow. You will begin to train yourself up spiritually, physically, and mentally. Phil, I'm going to turn this to you, my friend.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it. Not only have you guys shared some awesome stuff, you've done it in a timely manner. So the challenge is going to be met. Here we go. Here we go. Identify. Okay, what's your identity? If you don't have, there's got to be a piece of accountability in our story that we're writing. Okay, if you haven't figured out, you're the star of our play. Okay, Scott, John, and I are simply the people changing sets, giving you cue cards, but you have to take ownership of your performance. Okay, and what I asked you to do last week is write some identity cards. I'm sharing a couple with mine. Okay, this is what's on this is what's taped on my mirror. Okay, I am a walker. Okay, I walk. It hasn't changed my life yet, other than this. I trust myself because for 4 years, I don't miss 2 days in a row. Okay, I'm building self trust. Second thing, I'm healthier yearly. Some of my goals physically that I had when I was 20 years old and 30 years old and 40 years old are radically different in my mid to late 50s. Okay. So what I do is I play a game with myself, and remember, this journey you're starring in is comparing you or taking those steps that Scott was talking about on personal growth. You're comparing yourself to yourself, nobody else. Okay. And the person you're about to become. I'm an encourager. Okay. I hope Lotes might be laughing at that one because I'm getting a little salty at my ab station. Okay. During track because I don't try very hard. But I work through the day and I try to look for opportunities. And it's interesting when it's on your mirror and you read it to yourself and it's in the front of your mind and those opportunities come. I think you act upon it. You have to define yourself. And then the last one, and I got this from John Perry in our leadership council. I thought it was really good. If you're like me, I felt a little silly identifying something that's might be 4 or 5 years away from now. Okay. So he wrote it this way. And so I wrote this: I am becoming more patient. I didn't write I'm patient because I'm like Scott. When you jump in the car and I start driving, I'm not very patient. Okay. But I'm becoming more patient. That's what I identify with. So please, 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 if you don't have 3 identities, that you see early in the morning, I suggest the mirror. But if you can, wherever you have them, please follow up on that. That was last week's. And then the last one is this, as far as review. We are trying, okay, here's a big circle. This could be someone spiritually. We're starting on ground zero. If your spiritual growth and your spiritual routine and your spiritual disciplines are way past inner circle, don't shrink to us. Keep growing. It's incredible. What we're trying to do is implement those tasks in the other two areas of your life so you can be balanced. I'm a gigantic believer in balance. I use student athletes. I've worked with them all my life, and they gravitate towards working on their athleticism because they're gifted. And some of them are embarrassed and shy away from the effort they do in the classroom because it's a challenge. Sooner or later, that weak link is going to cost you. So being balanced is maybe not in a performance level, but it's in a discipline level and an effort level. Okay. Lesson for tonight: fixed mindset versus growth mindset. We want you to be a growth mindset. Sounds like a play on words. I was introduced to this about 4 years ago, and a lady named Doneen Taylor, who's a professional roper. As a female, she lives out in Montana. I was on a Zoom meeting, and she gave an illustration using solo cups. And so I appreciate her, and I am going to steal her presentation. So here we go. Here's fixed mindset, growth mindset. Don't I don't respond in the comment box, but I think we'll know all of these people I described. Okay. And maybe in different seasons of your life, you've been this person. This is fixed mindset person. Okay. Fixed mindset person. And here's the water. Okay. Water is new information. Fixed mindset person, they're not about new information. They're closed. They don't want to grow. A lot of times it's comfort. New information causes us to take action. Okay. Sometimes it's fear. Okay. But this is a closed mindset person. They don't grow and they really don't have an impact on very many people. Okay. So that's number one. Second one, my special cup. There it is. Okay. Got a hole in the bottom. This is gimmick mindset person. Okay. So one of the things that John Maxwell shared with us is one of the motivators of change is pain. So I've done my pursuit of schooling is so bad. My study habits, okay, it's painful, or my fitness level, or my relationship. So I'm desperate, and so I start buying information. Okay, I start buying information. I'm always after the new gimmick. Fix me quick, fix me quick. The problem is it doesn't stick. They're not developing habits. Okay, this person doesn't grow either. It's too bad because they are absorbing new information, but there's no growth and there's no impact on other people. Here we go. I hope you can see this one. This is my rocks. Okay, this is my rocks, which will be returning to our rock bed here outside. Okay, after this. This is past wounds. This is failed relationships. This is goals I didn't meet. Okay, this is dirt and garbage that I hang on to. Okay, I'm hanging on to them. And the problem with, if I fill up with this, there's not a lot of room for growth. There's not a lot of room for growth. It gets squeezed out. This person wants to grow. Sometimes the process of growing is getting rid of some of our trash from the past. Okay? So that's a growth mindset person. Then we have a growth mindset person. Solo cup up and ready. So every morning I get up. I'm not talking me, I'm talking the cup. Okay? Get up and I fill up. I have a devotion. I get up and I do my gratitude journal, which I know you guys have done 7 days straight. We asked you to. Okay? I get up and I read. I get up and I walk. I invest myself slowly but surely. And as Scott said, the increments are small. Here's what's bound to happen. I'm a fulfilled person after a while. And then here's what's really cool. starts spilling over, either intentionally or I'm just so full, people around me start collecting. We inspire, we impact, and that makes life really, really, really exciting. Now, if I'm pouring out, what do I got to do? I got to make sure intentionally I fill in every day. Intentionally. Most of us don't go to the gym, except for Ethan Lund. This used to be his workout plan when he was single. Okay. He went to the gym one time a year. Okay. He did a little 20-minute workout, went, I'm good. Okay. Most of us realize that the pursuit of a fitness change is increments every day. And that's how it is mentally. You know, be intentional of what you allow into your mind. Okay. Now I'm back to my PowerPoint. Thank you, Doneen. There's my cups so we can fill into other people. Now you can take out your phone. I really want you to take out your phone. I'll be honest with you. I want you to be able to take pictures of the next slides. Okay. Take pictures of the next slide. I'm going to give you our task mentally is going to be starting to read 10 minutes a day. 10 minutes a day. I don't care when you do it. This is the first thing I do when I get up, and it's with a big cup of coffee. And so when my alarm goes off, which is horrific, and we'll talk about it here, the first 3 steps are terrible. I woke up at 4 o'clock on Monday. I woke up at 4:30 on Tuesday. Saturday, I'll sleep till 6, so I can go eat breakfast with John and Scott. And Sunday, I might sleep to 8. Guess what I found out? The first 3 steps out of that bed are terrible, no matter when I take them. But by the time I get to the end of bed, life is okay. And to escalate my consistency, I've done the thing I enjoy most first, and that's read with a cup of coffee. So here's my reading suggestions. If you already have a library and you're reading rock and roll, here's the categories. Okay, perspective. I have the glasses here because of this. When I take my glasses off, I can see all of you, but not very clearly. Scott's blurry. I can see the people. When I put them on, it clarifies. Okay. Quickly, I had a stroke. Okay. I won't talk about it a lot during these classes, but I had a stroke last summer. Okay. I don't know. I say that so you'll join in because I know we all go through challenges. Okay. God's been very good on my rehab, but about November, I had to go see my neurologist. And I know you probably don't ever have a day like this. I was feeling a little sorry for myself. My football year didn't go the way I wanted. I was tired. I was back to teaching, and I was kind of having a little pity party. I don't think people around me knew I was. I walked into that waiting room. As I sat into that waiting room, I saw 2 gentlemen in 15-minute period of time come in severely impacted by their illnesses. One guy slurred speech. One guy couldn't walk. One guy was walking on his tiptoes. One guy had to use a walker. And I'll tell you what, the good Lord put glasses on me that day. It didn't change my challenges. It definitely changed the perspective of what I looked and how grateful I was for my recovery. So if you struggle with pity parties, okay, I would suggest these 2. Now, these are not easy reads. These are rough. These guys went through some stuff. Man's Search for Meaning. John Perry reads 100 books a day. I read Man's Search for Meaning because he told me 4 years ago when I met him, this was the greatest book he's ever read. It's a psychiatrist that went through the Holocaust. The first 100 pages is day-to-day details of the environment these gentlemen survived in the Holocaust. Not an easy read. The second half of the book ties together the like mindsets of the people that survived and thrived past that. So it's definitely a perspective book. Might not be the one that you need. On Fire, John O'Leary, a guy from St. Louis. At 9 years old, 95% of his body's burned. As a 9-year-old, you don't have a lot of coping skills. Okay. John O'Leary is now a public speaker and a whole person. And it goes through his journey of how you don't, his perspective of just because he was 90% scar tissue, doesn't mean he didn't have value. So it's a great book. I love it, and it's really, really, really neat. I know he did. Jack Buck was a huge behind the scenes hero in this book. It really changed my perspective on him. Okay, Coach, I've got my perspective. I need habits. Okay, I need habits. Here are the cornerstones. Atomic Habits, James Clear. If you haven't read it, we got to read it sometime before summer. Atomic Habits, James Clear. Win the Day, Mark Batterson. I'm a huge Mark Batterson fan. Win the Day talks about taking those first steps like Scott did. Make Your Bed by William McRaven, and Just One More by Ed Milet. Little deeper. I'm into habits. I want to know about brain growth. I want to know why the dopamine is released. I want to understand the impact this intentional training has. Winning the Middle Game by Amber Selke. Mindset by Carol Dweck. Obstacle is the Way by Brian Holiday. And Courage is Calling by Ryan Holiday. Anything Maxwell, anything Batterson, anything Covey. Coach, I don't read. I'm with you. Okay. Then here are some fantastic podcasts. 10 minutes. We all drive to work for 10 minutes, except me. I go 5 minutes. Okay. Put the podcast in. Give yourself some mental nutrition every day. Greg Rochelle is fantastic. He also has 2 wonderful books. Brian Knight, Mitchell Maxwell, Damon West, Jocko Willix. The Riff is a podcast from my pastor. If you don't have time, you don't want to dive into a book, you just want to get started, let's start the habit. The habit's the significant, not necessarily the content. You're going to see a lot of the same content. So get up and read a Proverbs a day. Okay. You don't have to be pursuing a deeper relationship with Christ. I don't know where you're at, but Proverbs is ridiculously packed of wisdom and behaviors. I'm going through it right now this week, just because I'm at a transition in my devotion. It's been a huge blessing. Okay. Mental task. If you haven't done your gratitude journal, shame on you. Changes your dopamine, changes your whole outlook, fights depression. Shame on you, shame on you, shame on you. Get up. Here's mine. I can't read it because it's so embarrassing. John Gold's all over it, but I think he stole my book and wrote his name in it. Okay. But gratitude journal, make it happen. Okay. We have to develop tasks. And then 10 minutes of reading. Okay. Something positive. Those are our tasks for the day or for the week. Once a day. Okay. So happy you were with us. Get on out of here and go write your story. Write your identity down. Start your behaviors. See you next week. Trying to get rid of you. I'm not good enough yet. See you, Sarah. And stop recording.